Some television twists are predictable. Others sit in the background for years, waiting for a moment when the audience finally realizes what they have been shown from the start. The Blacklist built its empire on secrets, misdirection, and shadowed identities. But there is one theory that refuses to die. It claims the show mirrors one of the most famous psychological reveals in film history. Tyler Durden from Fight Club changed how viewers recognized unreliable narrators. Raymond Reddington might be built from the same blueprint. This idea exists because many of Reddington's actions operate outside normal logic, and fans began to notice patterns. Fight Club used those same elements to create Tyler Durden. Before we continue, remember to subscribe. It helps the channel grow and keeps you connected to stories about power, identity, and the hidden logic behind iconic characters. Now, let's begin. The core connection between the Blacklist and Fight Club begins with identity. Fight Club hides its twist in plain sight. Tyler Durden acts as the confident, fearless version of the unnamed narrator, while the audience watches both men interact as if they are separate individuals. The Blacklist uses a similar structure, not by copying the story, but by placing Reddington in a position where his identity becomes a puzzle with missing edges. The moment he introduces himself to the FBI in episode 1, the series starts building a contradiction. He claims to be Raymond Reddington, yet every clue that follows pulls that claim apart. The show repeatedly returns to the theme of self-construction. When characters speak about Reddington's past, their descriptions never align. Some remember a naval officer. Others remember a criminal strategist. The inconsistencies grow wider as the seasons progress. These gaps in memory create the same disorientation that surrounds Tyler Durden. In Fight Club, Durden exists as a response to trauma and dissatisfaction. In the Blacklist, the central Reddington figure behaves like someone who escaped devastation by becoming another version of himself. The show supports this idea with references to surgery, secrets that involve only a few trusted allies, and emotional reactions that do not match the persona of a hardened criminal. The identity illusion becomes stronger when the show highlights how others react to Reddington. Many characters never question him, even when his stories conflict with known facts. They shape their understanding of him around the role he plays, rather than the truth of who he is. Fight Club uses the same mechanism. People follow Durden because he embodies authority and freedom. It is only when the narrator confronts evidence that contradicts his perception that the truth becomes unavoidable. One of the most revealing moments in the Blacklist arrives when the show confirms that the man calling himself Raymond Reddington is not the original. This reveal forces viewers to reevaluate every scene through the lens of misdirection. Fight Club also asks the audience to reevaluate everything once the twist lands. The viewer becomes aware that the clues were always visible. The Blacklist follows that structure by turning identity into a maze that both exposes and protects the truth. The theme of self-made identity continues across multiple seasons. The Blacklist does not claim that Reddington is an illusion created within someone's mind, but it does show that his identity is sculpted with careful intention. The Tyler Durden comparison grows from this pattern. Both figures use crafted identities to navigate a world shaped by loss and fear. Both move through their stories with the confidence of someone who rejected the version of themselves that no longer served them. Tyler Durden does not dominate scenes through rank or status. He dominates through presence. Every moment he appears, people lean in. They listen. They trust him far beyond what logic should allow. The Blacklist uses this same energy when building Raymond Reddington. His charisma does not operate like ordinary charm. It bends the atmosphere of a room. It shifts the decisions of powerful institutions. It convinces violent men and federal agents to follow the guidance of someone they should never trust. This is where the mirror between the two characters becomes clearer. In Fight Club, Durden's charisma comes from the freedom he projects. He appears fearless. He seems untouched by consequences. He speaks with conviction that makes people abandon their doubts. Reddington uses a quieter form of this influence. His voice remains calm. His confidence never shakes. He moves through interrogation rooms, embassies, and criminal meetings as if he owns every corner of the environment. The show builds this aura intentionally. Characters repeat comments about his presence and ability to command attention. Many follow his advice, even when it goes against their instincts. One of the most striking similarities lies in how both characters gather followers. Durden builds an underground movement from men who feel powerless. Reddington creates an informal network of criminals, informants, and negotiators who rely on his guidance. They do not follow him because of fear. They follow him because his influence promises control over chaos. This pattern reinforces the idea that charisma is not just personality. It is a tool of psychological leverage. The Blacklist often places Reddington in situations where people are forced to trust him despite uncertainty. Officials who dislike him still rely on his intelligence. Criminals who fear betrayal still seek his partnership. Victims and enemies both listen when he speaks. In Fight Club, Durden inspires loyalty, even after his methods become dangerous. Both stories highlight how powerful charisma can override moral hesitation. Another shared element is the way each man pushes others to confront their internal struggles. Durden challenges the narrator by exposing his dissatisfaction and forcing him to acknowledge uncomfortable truths. Reddington often does the same with Elizabeth Keene. His conversations with her reveal deeper motivations than simple mentorship. He pushes her to examine her identity, her loyalty, and her childhood trauma. That push mirrors how Durden forces growth through confrontation rather than comfort. Yet the key link is how this charisma hides something deeper. Durden's charm masks the fractured reality of the narrator. Reddington's charm covers a history of reinvention and buried truths. Both characters use their presence as armor. Their confidence is not simply a personality trait. It is a protective shell built around unresolved pain. Reddington's influence never feels accidental. It is crafted, intentional, and strategic. The show uses charisma as a way to mislead the audience about the vulnerability underneath. Fight Club built its story around that same misdirection. And that is why many viewers see Reddington as a refined version of a Durden-like figure. Someone who changes every room they enter, while hiding the truth that drives them. Fight Club does not treat Tyler Durden as a random personality split. His existence comes from trauma the narrator cannot face. The pain becomes so heavy that the mind creates someone who can act without fear. The Blacklist uses a similar logic in how it builds the man known as Raymond Reddington. The show reveals pieces of a life defined by loss, betrayal, and destruction. It never presents these events as background details. They form the foundation of Reddington's reinvention. The original Raymond Reddington's disappearance is tied to a devastating fire, a fractured family, and a string of secrets that reach across decades. When the audience later learns that the man carrying the name is not the real Reddington, the emotional weight shifts. The story introduces a person who survived immense trauma and chose to step into another identity to protect a child, erase a past, or outrun danger. The exact details are layered behind misdirection, but the theme remains consistent. Reinvention was not a choice made from ambition. It was a response to devastation. In Fight Club, the narrator cannot handle a life that feels empty and suffocating. Tyler becomes the version of him that can endure chaos and reshape the world around him. The Blacklist approaches this idea with more grounded realism. The Reddington figure becomes someone who hides pain behind calculated calm. Scenes that reveal grief, guilt, or hesitation stand out because they break the illusion. They show a human being struggling with memories he does not openly share. These moments mirror the narrator's flashes of fear when he begins to understand that Durden is born from his wounds. One of the clearest connections appears in how both stories use trauma as transformation. Durden pushes the narrator to reject comfort because comfort allowed his misery to grow unnoticed. Reddington transforms pain into discipline. He studies enemies, negotiates impossible deals, and prepares for betrayals long before they arrive. This behavior suggests someone who survived enough loss to develop a worldview centered on anticipation. Elizabeth Keene's connection to Reddington strengthens this parallel. Their relationship is built on unresolved history. Every time she seeks answers, Reddington avoids direct explanations, not because he lacks them, but because the truth holds emotional weight he struggles to expose. The narrator in Fight Club avoids acknowledging his trauma in the same way. Both characters hide their wounds inside identities that feel safer to maintain. The Blacklist never states that Reddington is a psychological projection. That is not its story. But it does show a person who rebuilt himself after trauma, much like Durden represents a rebuilt identity born from crisis. The comparison exists because both narratives treat pain as a force that shapes who a person becomes. Both Tyler Durden and Raymond Reddington reject the systems that failed them. Fight Club frames Durden as someone who sees society as a trap, built on routines, expectations, and hollow rewards. He believes freedom comes from stepping outside those structures. The Blacklist builds Reddington with a similar outlook, though expressed through strategy rather than chaos. He operates with a personal code that does not match the rules of law enforcement or organized crime. This is one of the strongest mirrors between the two characters. Durden creates his philosophy by stripping away anything he sees as artificial. He pushes others to let go of possessions, titles, and routines. His messages attract followers because he speaks to people who feel invisible inside a system that does not care about them. Reddington also builds a following, but he does it through trust and loyalty instead of rebellion. People join his network because he offers protection and opportunities that institutions cannot provide. His code prioritizes promises, debts, and respect. He enforces that code with precision. A key similarity lies in how both men challenge the institutions around them. Durden forms Project Mayhem to undermine structures he views as corrupt. Reddington works with the FBI, but only on his terms. He gives information that helps them catch criminals, yet he always stays outside their control. The task force depends on him, but cannot dictate how he moves. Every decision he makes reinforces one message. He recognizes the system, understands its limitations, and refuses to let it direct his life. Reddington also shows disdain for traditional power. He negotiates with diplomats and mob leaders without fear. He speaks to government officials as though he stands above them. His authority does not come from files or rank. It comes from his willingness to step outside the normal chain of command. Durden behaves the same way. His authority grows because he presents himself as someone who cannot be contained. Another shared element is how both characters see rules as obstacles. Durden breaks them to create shock and force change. Reddington bends them to achieve outcomes the law cannot reach. He uses secret deals, private intelligence, and unconventional alliances. These actions reveal his belief that strict systems fail when confronted with real danger. By working outside those systems, he achieves results no official agency can replicate. Durden pushes the narrator to see the same gap between structure and reality. The Blacklist reinforces this theme through Reddington's conversations. He speaks about the failures of institutions with a tone shaped by personal experience. He has witnessed corruption, violence, and betrayal. He does not trust systems to deliver justice. Durden builds his worldview from similar experiences, though expressed through a more destructive philosophy. Both men reach the same conclusion. Freedom requires operating with a personal code, instead of relying on institutions that protect themselves first. Reddington's code defines every choice he makes. It gives him structure without confinement. It allows him to pursue loyalty, vengeance, and protection on his own terms. The show presents this as strength, but also as a warning. When someone lives outside the system long enough, they become a force separate from it. That is why the Tyler Durden comparison remains compelling. Both characters build their lives from philosophies that challenge the structures around them. If this comparison between Reddington and Tyler Durden revealed something you never noticed before, subscribing is the best way to support the channel. It gives us the chance to bring you more investigations into the hidden details within your most favorite characters. Hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments to keep the discussion going. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.